Hey, Lance.
Hello.
How's KubeCon? Out here chewing?
I'm sorry, my internet's
No.
awful.
Oh. I just asked how KubeCon was.
Oh, it was good. Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant being able to talk about stuff we're putting out in open source, right?
Yes.
And I am very excited about the features we've got.
Yeah, me too. It's looking very cool. Um, I think it's a really nice first drop, and it will get even cooler as time goes on.
Mm.
Hello,
Morning, Rosa.
everybody.
How's it going?
Good,
Good to
good.
see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys.
How did you enjoy KubeCon?
Oh, for a shy person who doesn't like the crowd, I had a couple of anxiety attacks, but it's good
You're a
that,
shy person who doesn't love a crowd?
yes,
Don't you do stand-up?
hence the reason that I'm doing stand-up.
I see.
Uh, the good thing
Almost makes
was like,
sense.
the good thing is like in England, they store their beer room temperature, so that sort of helped with the anxiety. Hmm.
Oops, don't want to leave anything. Um,
Do these
yeah, well,
meetings
how
get
does,
published to YouTube?
yeah,
Okay. So there was a while when when someone was forgetting to do that. I don't know if that has that all been fixed.
Rez is nodding, so I will assume that it has been.
It's not fixed, but I'll publish them to YouTube.
Yeah,
I'll
we
say
had
again
some
without
automated
mute.
thing for a while.
Cool.
It may just be us today, so we can get started, I suppose. Um, yeah, so it's April 9th. We are a couple weeks into code freeze now for Calico 3.30, which is the big topic. I think everybody's kind of just been heads down on testing and finding bugs and fixing bugs and shoring up that release. Um, so as far as progress goes, I think we're looking pretty good. We're still on target for an end of April 3.30 release um, with all of the key features that we've talked about in previous meetings. We can go through a quick summary of those. Um, so the big one is some new observability capabilities, which we were just kind of talking about before the meeting started. Um, so Calico will support the ability to produce flow data, so you can monitor all the flows in your cluster. Um, there'll be a gRPC API for accessing that, as well as um, a web UI that you can access to monitor in real time flows between services in your cluster. And we'll do hopefully a quick demo of that in a little bit on this meeting, just to give a little peek into what that looks like. Um, so all that's going well. There's also new staged network policy capabilities that allow you to uh, add a policy but not actually enforce it. And those will show up in your flows that you can view in the UI. And you can just get a feel for what a policy is going to do before actually enacting it on the cluster, which hopefully is a very useful tool for not breaking things and getting your policy correct. What else? On top of all of that, we've also got support for baseline admin network policy coming in this release. Admin network policy showed up in the previous one, and its companion baseline admin network policy will be out 3:30. Those are both, I think, still in alpha upstream, so please do play around with those and provide feedback so we can make sure that we're feeding it back up into the Kubernetes policy group so that we get those APIs as useful as possible. And we've also got some new load balancer IP allocation capabilities. Those will allow you to use Calico's load balancer IP allocation, or load balancer advertisement over BGP without needing a third-party IP allocator like MetalLB. Yes, thank you, Pedro. There's also, we have implemented new native QoS controls in Calico. So I think we had some support for this. Yeah, keep the features coming, guys. This is a huge release. Yeah, we had support via the upstream QoS plugin, but Calico now can do this natively. Yes, Daniel, we're just going over a summary of the 3:30 release capabilities. Yeah, so native QoS coming, which is exciting. We've packaged a gateway API implementation into our operator install, so you can very easily get an ingress gateway running in your Calico cluster. We have implemented enhancement to our automatic host endpoint capabilities for protection of Kubernetes hosts that allow you to customize those endpoints. So you can now automatically deploy one or more host endpoints to each node in the cluster, selecting specific interfaces, giving them specific names and labels. So this will be quite useful for folks who want to protect their hosts, and especially those who have sort of unique networking requirements on their hosts per interface. So your Kubernetes host has an ETH0 and an ETH1 connected to different networks with different needs. You can now apply policy to those quite easily. Apply policy to each of those separately quite easily. Whew, okay, I'm out of breath. What have I missed? Did I manage to get it all? NASDAQ, Lance, Pedro.
Reza in the chat says OpenStack Caracal support.
Yeah, can't forget OpenStack. Yeah, I don't know much about that one. Presumably Caracal is the latest release. Awesome. And yeah, that might do it. Like you said, v3:30 is in code freeze and testing now, so that will be targeting end of the month. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Casey, everyone. Sorry for being late.
All good. It's good to see you.
Thanks, likewise.
Yeah, we just got through a rundown of the 3.30 feature set. I think that's really the majority of what I wanted to talk about. We've got a couple other patch releases coming that are worth noting. I guess it's worth calling out as a team that I think we're planning on moving forward, aiming for a patch release per month at a more regular schedule, just to keep up with CVE updates and Golang bumps. So I believe the next one is going to be a 329 or 328 is the next one coming out. Yeah, 328.4, 5. I can't keep track. A new 328 release primarily with just CV fixes and updating dependencies in the Golang version. So keep an eye out for that. What else? I think that might be all for me to report on.
Is it demo time?
Yeah, we can do a demo now. That sounds more fun than talking. Let me figure out how to do that.
Did we clear it up with the demo gods?
Not at all.
Oh no.
This is exceptionally last minute. Hold on a second. Okay. Sharing. Hopefully you can see a screen.
It's a
This
little bit
one's
tiny.
a little bit small. How's this? Is that visible?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so like I said, this is exceptionally last minute, but wanted to show a little bit of what we're talking about here with the new observability stuff coming in 3.30. So this is the UI that I was talking about. It's obviously still being getting the finishing touches on it. But what we can see here is just a live stream of flows as Calico is learning about them. These are showing up and you can see the various high-level fields here. You can pause the stream if you want to and take a look around. So I think we've just got like a basic demo application on here. You can see like the checkout service is talking to a bunch of things here. And you can drill into that if you want to. It shows you specifically like which service is talking to which service, what action was taken on the flow. You can get information about the labels associated with the source and the destination, how much traffic was actually included in this flow, and even down specifically to which policies took actions on this flow, which is
Casey,
quite cool. Yeah.
if I may jump in, that was a big question in KubeCon. So if you're watching this, you don't need to understand JSON. That string will be sort of predefined and show you like buttons and those sort of stuff. At the moment, this is not the release, it's just an early preview. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of this is going to be improved over time, just iteratively as we work through the UX. This is, I think, just a placeholder directly from the backend API at the moment, while we figure out the best way to display this. But you can even do stuff like filter on which policy is taking the action. So you can go in there. I guess I don't have any with that one anymore. But if you want to, drill in and say, I want to diagnose a specific policy and see what actions it's actually taking. That doesn't seem to be working right now. It was working a minute ago. But suffice it to say that it is possible. You can filter in on a specific policy and see what actions it's taking. You can do the same sort of thing if you want to drill down, and diagnose a particular service. You can specify filters up here and see just the flows from that service. And of course, the demo gods are not kind to me. I wonder if it's my port forward. This is the way of demos, unfortunately. Okay, so something, there we go. Is a little bit off here. Yeah. So you can filter in on namespace and service to see, I want to see exactly what Grafana is doing. And you can see it's making some requests outside of the cluster. It's making some requests to DNS. Yeah. Anything more to say? Like I said, this is kind of ad hoc demo. Reza's just spent the last week demoing this at KubeCon, so probably has more interesting things to say.
So some of the questions that people were asking was, does Whisker work with Calico eBPF? So regardless of which data plane you're running, I'm hoping VPP is also in there, and Nathan can help us there. But IP tables, NF tables, eBPF, if you're running any of those data planes, Whisker will show you all the flows, similar to what you were seeing. Another thing was about the placeholder at the top. So that placeholder is gonna tell you if a new release is coming, what sort of like next step you could take, where it says pop-up message informing user. There's going to be a lot more involved in here, and there's actually an interactive environment that you can already like log in and try Whisker on your own. There's actually a scenario. If I can put it in the chat, and I can share a QR code for it. So if anybody is interested, they can do the live demo.
Cool. I didn't know about that. Yeah, drop it in meeting notes too, I guess.
Meeting note. Sure.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty cool. It's great that we're finally getting into this observability space, and I suspect that there will be much more to come on this over time. This is just the first drop, but yeah, very cool. Yeah, Dan, I think that might have just been the Zoom screen share, or my computer being a little burdened with whatever I'm doing in the background. The mouse over effects are usually pretty snappy for me. And now that I have stopped sharing, they are looking much snappier. Yeah, cool. I think that's all I've got. Nathan, was there stuff you wanted to talk about?
Not much. Just that we are still pursuing adoption and we are seeing a bit more traction. actually. So we've been focusing. So we are a bit lagging behind in terms of features, importantly related to flow extraction. And this is some bit of work. So we probably will stay lagging at least for its release. But on the bright side, as adoption is growing, we are looking at doing some bug fixes, refactorings, a bit of polishing of the code to make things a bit better, hopefully. So, yeah. So
Nice. Yeah, that's
lagging behind, but looking at moving again.
yeah. Yeah, that's great to hear that adoption's picking up. That's pretty exciting. Cool. Did anybody else have any other topics or things they wanted to share or questions? If not, I think we're at the end. I promise that sometime in 2025, I will find a way to move this meeting time to a different day. I know I have been saying that for a few months now, but scheduling things is harder than all of the other work that we do here. So it will happen. I promise you.
Yeah, we still got time. It's what, April?
Yeah, it's April. I don't have to think about it for another few months if I want to get it done in 2025. Anyway, thanks everybody for coming. It was good to see you all. And our next meeting will be in about a month.
Thank you.
See you guys.